Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about 10 things you absolutely need to know about living in Las Vegas, Nevada in 2021. Hi, my name's Tom and I help people move to Las Vegas. So if that's the information you're looking for, then stay tuned because we're coming at you right now with the top 10 things you absolutely need to know about living here in Las Vegas in 2021. So let's jump right into it. The number one thing on the list, this is a huge pet peeve of locals. This is a huge pet peeve of people all across the entire state, not just in Las Vegas. It's pronounced Nevada, not Nevada, not Nevada, not any other way. Nevada. Say it with me. Nevada. Nevada. So make sure, please guys, pronounce it correctly. That will go a long way with your reputation with local residents and that sort of thing. The number two thing on the list, Vegas is a melting pot of people. We get people from all over the country, all over the world who move here, who vacation here, come for the weekend, stay for a month, all sorts of things. So what you need to know is Vegas is not quite like a lot of other places you've probably been, in the fact that it's not really, how do I say this? It's not really like a, go to your neighbor for a cup of milk thing, or it's a very transient city. People move in, people move out very quickly. It's very transient. A lot of people don't really know their neighbors or don't really know, the rest of their neighborhood, that sort of thing, who's living there. And that has a lot to do with the transience of the city. That has a lot to do with how people move in and out very quickly. And that's just kind of the attitude around here. So if you're used to living in a small town where everybody kind of knows everybody, everybody's helping everybody out, that's totally cool. You can have that atmosphere here in Las Vegas, but you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to do that networking for yourself. No one's going to do it for you because that's just not really the type of town that we live in. The next one on the list, guys, is that Las Vegas has the same shopping as everywhere else in the country, plus some additional shopping because we happen to be, tourist destination, huge tourist destination. So we have your Targets, we have your Walmarts, we have everything you need right here in Las Vegas. And one of the great parts about Las Vegas is it's kind of set up in all these little micro districts with own casinos, own little individual parts of the city that really have everything you need. So unless you need something very specific, or maybe you're looking for a service and you happen to like a particular service provider, let's say a vet, for instance, because I have my vet and they live all the way across the city. So when I have a vet appointment for my dogs, then we have to drive across the city. But for the most part, everything we need is within about a 15-20 minute drive of where we actually live. And you're going to find that in Henderson, you're going to find that in Summerlin, North Las Vegas, all different parts of the city. So keep that in mind, guys. We have all kinds of shopping, all kinds of everything you're going to need, but also all that additional shopping that comes with being a heavily touristed city and state. So you go down to the Strip and you'll find all the fancy watch manufacturers and just shoe stores and just all the luxury brands that you know and love, but that you might not have had the opportunity to actually go to a store, for one of those brands before. You're probably going to be able to find them here in Las Vegas. So if you like to shop, definitely check them out when you come out to Las Vegas. Definitely check out the Strip. Number 4, and this is one of the funniest, most interesting parts of Las Vegas. I remember when I first moved here 5+ years ago, and the first time I went to the grocery store, I couldn't believe that Las Vegas actually has gambling in the grocery stores. Not just, the local grocery store, but also like your Walmarts can have gambling, and all these other local grocery store chains can have slot machines. Your pharmacy might have slot machines. It's really interesting, but gambling is not just for the casinos in Las Vegas. It's not just for the Strip. It's not just for Fremont Street. It's really for every part of the city and everywhere. Liquor stores have casinos. I've seen gambling absolutely everywhere. Some parts of the city, it's on every street corner. So that's just kind of one of those cool little niche things about Las Vegas. But we have gambling everywhere. So if you like to gamble and you never want to be too far for a slot machine, then you're lucky, because Las Vegas, it definitely has you covered there. All right, that number 5 thing you need to know, guys, there are always locals deals on shows, on parking, on tickets, on this, that, the other thing. All you got to do is ask. Ask at the box office. call the show, the office of the show, look online, Google some locals deals for Las Vegas. I know the outlet malls down here out here in Las Vegas, there's 2 big outlet malls that are outside. They offer free parking to locals. There are some casinos that offer free parking to locals, but a lot of that went to the wayside just before COVID. So that's something you kind of have to hunt for, but you will find a lot of locals deals for a lot of different shows, a lot of different avenues of entertainment here in Las Vegas. So if you're moving here, make sure you get that Las Vegas, that Nevada driver's license as soon as possible so that you can take advantage of all those show deals. All right, number 6, guys, and this is one that I didn't think about when I first moved here because I didn't have kids, but now it's front and center in my mind because I got twins. So there are actually a ton of family-friendly and kid-friendly activities here in Las Vegas. I would say the number 1 biggest attraction for kids and families, there are an absolute ton of parks in Las Vegas and in Henderson, or in the Las Vegas Valley in general. Summerlin, just Summerlin alone, I think has over 200 parks. So you take the rest of the city, count that, we're probably 400, maybe 500 parks throughout the whole city. So there are a ton of parks, playgrounds, that sort of thing, frisbee golf courses, tennis, baseball, volleyball courts, everything you could possibly want to do with your kids sport-wise is here in Las Vegas. So you can definitely go check that out. But there's all sorts of other outdoor activities like the Springs Preserve, which is a really cool outdoor venue you can walk through. They have a butterfly garden. My wife and I were actually there a couple days ago, so I might cut in some B-roll for you. But the Springs Preserve is really awesome. You can head up to Mount Charleston and do some other outdoor activities that we'll talk about later. But there's really a ton of stuff to do here in Las Vegas. Another great thing for families is during Christmas time, up at the NASCAR track, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, they do a huge 10 million light Christmas light display you can drive through, and we did that with the kids, and that was really fun too. So there's a lot of stuff to do here. Don't think just because it's a big gambling city, a big tourist city, that there aren't things to do with kids. Because remember guys, tourists do bring their kids here and they have to have kid-friendly activities someplace. So check out the museums, check out the parks, check out the light shows, check out the Springs Preserve, and just do a quick Google search. You'll find a ton of stuff here to do in Las Vegas with your kids. Number 7, guys, number 7, we are not a very walkable city. So if you don't have a car, you might want to get one, or you might want to figure out some alternative way of transportation, learn the public transit system. Las Vegas, besides the fact that it's, a very hot city because we're in the Mojave Desert, so that's one thing that keeps people from walking places, but the city is pretty spread out over the entire valley. So you really need a car here. You got to hop on the interstate to get a lot of different places. Now, I know I talked about earlier how, you within about 10-20 minute drive, you do have pretty much everything you're going to need in every little part of the city, but a 10-20 minute drive is still an hour or 2 hour walk. So you want to make sure you have the vehicle, especially in the summer. It's 100, 115 degrees out. You don't want to be walking half mile, a mile down the road, or however far to go get groceries or anything like that, because all your ice cream is going to melt by the time you get home and you're just going to have a milkshake. So that's just one example, guys. Make sure you get a car because we're not a super walkable city. I know some other cities are more walkable, but unfortunately that's just not Las Vegas. All right, guys, number 8 is going to be marijuana. So state law says marijuana is legal here in Nevada. So if you do like to smoke, if you like to take CBD or any other marijuana product, you're definitely going to like it here in Las Vegas. If you're living here, it's very easy to get. There's dispensaries pretty much everywhere. But I know some people are moving here and maybe they don't like the weed, they don't partake, to each his own, right, guys? But I know some people are scared that they're going to end up living next to a dispensary, or that the dispensaries are everywhere on every street corner. And let me tell you right now, guys, that is not true. There are very specific rules about where a dispensary can be built, where they can operate their business, how they can operate the business, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, you might smell it on the strip, you might smell it in some of the more other touristy parts of the city, or on some odd days you might smell it in some parts of the city, just if the wind happens to be blowing in the right or wrong direction, depending on how you feel about marijuana. But you're not going to have like a dispensary on your street corner or right outside your development, your housing development where you live. That's just, they passed, they got rid of all that. They set up laws and all sorts of things. So that's not going to happen to you. So if you're moving here and you're not super weed tolerant, you don't really like to partake, you don't have to worry about dispensaries being everywhere. All right, number 9, guys, and now we're talking about pools. A A lot of people think, I talk to a lot of clients who think this, they think that because Las Vegas is a really hot city because it's in the desert, that means that everybody has a pool. There are absolutely pools everywhere in every house. And that is unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you feel about pools, that is not true. Because yards in Las Vegas are generally pretty small unless you buy an older home, pools are actually quite rare. And I'm actually working with a couple clients right now who want to buy homes with pools. And when I plug that into the search, private pool, check mark, their results, go down by about 90%. So pools are actually pretty rare out here. You can always buy a house and put a pool in yourself if your yard's big enough. I'm not personally a pool guy or a pool expert, so definitely look up some pool people in the Las Vegas area, give them a call. If you'd like, I can recommend somebody, but you really want to get a professional opinion about, whether they can put a pool in, what kind of pool you want to put in, but do all that research before you buy, guys, so that you don't buy a house and then find out later that you can't have the pool that you really want. But if you want to buy a house with a pool, just be known that the number of homes that you can pick from, total brain fart there, number of homes you can pick from are going to be way less than the number of homes if you were just to consider any home that didn't have a pool. All right, guys, that last thing you need to know, number 10, outdoor activities are absolutely everywhere here in Las Vegas. Now, I know I talked about the parks already, but let's dive into a few other things. So Nevada as a state is something like 85% public land, and that public land means that it's owned managed by the federal government, but the public, you, actually own it. So based on the rules of that particular land and the federal agency that is managing it at that time, you can go biking, hiking, hunting, fishing, camping, have cookouts. I mean, the sky is the limit as far as things that you can do on this public land. And like I said, since Nevada is about 85% public land, there's pretty much no limit to the areas of the state that you can, go and recreate and enjoy. So if you really like the outdoors, you like getting far away from people, the tourists, all that sort of stuff, Nevada is one of the best states outside of Alaska for you to actually do that in. And since we're in the West, Nevada is a western state. You can always drive over to Arizona, Utah, California, Idaho. A lot of these states also have a huge percentage of public land, not quite 85%, but it is quite high in a lot of western states. So if you like the outdoors, living in the West is definitely for you, but living in Las Vegas specifically is one of the best places you could possibly live. And besides that, we have right around the city, we have Red Rock National Conservation Area, Sloan Canyon National Conservation Area, Lake Mead National Recreation Area, we have the Grand Canyon National Park, we have Hoover Dam, we have Spring Mountains and Mount Charleston. There's so much opportunity here. Oh, we also have the Desert National Wildlife Refuge, which is actually the largest wildlife refuge outside of Alaska. So there's a ton of places to go, a ton of places to see, a lot of wildlife to interact with. So if that's something you're looking for, definitely move here to Las Vegas. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below what you think my next video should be, and if there's anything you think that anybody else needs to know about Las Vegas before they move here. Stay tuned for my next video, guys. Have a great day. See you.